Hello, Neil Tappin here from Golf Monthly, and in this video we are talking about adjustable drivers and how you dial them in perfectly for your game. So modern day drivers really are a toolkit. There are a whole host of different options built up within the driver, and it's really down to each individual golfer, albeit working with a fitter, to find exactly the right setup for them. And there are a host of different things that you can change in a modern day driver to help it set up exactly right for you. And I'm going to talk you through some of those now. So the first thing to talk about, and the most basic thing to talk about, is the loft. So in most modern day drivers you can adjust the loft here in the hosel. So by adjusting this screw, you can change most modern day drivers, I would say, up and down by increments of around about a degree. Now there are variations within that. Some manufacturers offer more adjustability, some manufacturers offer a little bit less, but I've got a 10-degree head here and I can change it up or down by a degree or two just to set it up exactly right for my game. The next thing to talk about is the lie angle. So if I grab this driver here, you'll notice in the hosel you have different loft options, but you also have different lie angle options, and getting the lie angle right is something that you'll need to do during a fitting. You need a trained eye to take a look at you swing the golf club and see how you are delivering the club to the ball. Getting the right lie angle will help you hit the middle of the face a little bit more often, and will also help you be a little bit more accurate. Now, one other comment I'd make about the lie angle is that a lot of people get custom fitted for their irons. Obviously, buying new irons is a big investment, so people do go through the process properly and they get custom fitted for their irons, and they tend to know roughly what their lie angle is. One thing I'd say is that when you're moving into a driver, don't just naturally assume that the lie angle will be the same for the driver as it was for your iron. It's a different length shaft, it's a slightly different setup position. Again, just go through the process with a fitter. Make sure that with a trained eye looking at you, you've got the lie angle set up exactly right for you. Once it is set up for you, unless you're making big technical changes to your game, it's something that will probably remain the same through your golfing life. So, having adjusted the lie angle, next thing to talk about is the spin characteristics of the driver, and there are some modern day drivers on the market that allow you to dial in the spin to your game. So again, it's the way that you deliver the club to the ball. Some people, and it is related to club head speed, but it's also related to technique. The way that certain people deliver the club to the ball will mean that they are high spin players and other players will be low spin, regardless of how fast they swing the club. So it's something, again, you'll need to look at on a launch monitor. And in the TaylorMade M3 that I've got here, you can just adjust this screw here. Let's say you're a lower spinning player, or you're a higher spinning player, sorry, you can move the weight forward, and that brings, by moving the weight forward, you move the center of gravity forward and you will bring the spin of the driver down. Now, one thing I would say is that the further back the weight goes, the more forgiving the driver becomes. By having the weight back, you push the centre of gravity back in the head and you get more of a resistance to twisting through impact. So if you strike the ball slightly in the heel, or slightly in the toe, sorry, or slightly in the heel, the face will want to twist. By having that centre of gravity further back, you increase something called the MOI of the driver, and it will resist that sort of desire to twist when you hit the ball off centre in the head. So spin profiles have become a big thing in the driver market. Really, there is a trade-off. The further forward you have it, for the faster swinger, the person that is a higher spinning player, the further forward they have it, the more distance they'll be able to get. But there is a trade-off. You do lose a little bit of forgiveness when you move the weights forward in the head. So having them back is probably the way to go for the majority of golfers, I would say. But that's, again, something that you'll want to work with your fitter. And then finally, you have, in a lot of modern day drivers, you have the ability to adjust the shot shape on offer from that driver. Now, there are different ways in which the manufacturers do this. Now, in the Ping driver I've got here, and the Callaway driver as well, you can buy them off the rack in a draw bias setting. So this just gives you the ability, if you do have a tendency to lose it a little bit right, just to set it up in a way that's going to have a resistance to doing that while you're out on the golf course. In other drivers, such as the TaylorMade M3 and the Titleist 917, you can adjust where the weights sit in the back of the head to help encourage a draw or a fade. In the Titleist, it's a weight cartridge that sits just in the back of the head here. You unscrew it using the same wrench here. The weight cartridge pops out and you have one end that's slightly heavier than the other, and you can turn that around, and by doing that you can set this driver up with a draw bias or with a fade bias. The important thing about shot shape bias within the driver heads in the modern day market, I'd say, is that Really, they're there to help you take one side of the golf course out of play. If you're someone that every now and again struggles with a bit of a hook, as I do, then being able to set your driver up with a fade bias can really help you hit a few more fairways. Likewise, again, if you're somebody who tends to lose it a little bit to the right, or you're somebody who has a very consistent fade and you're looking for a little bit more distance, then setting that driver up with a draw bias could really have an impact on the quality of your performance. And I'd say the ability to adjust the shot shape that you're getting from a driver can really make a big difference to how many fairways you hit. So it's definitely worth considering if you are in the market for a new driver. Guys, thank you very much for watching. There is an awful lot to think about when it comes to modern day drivers. They are, as I said at the start, they are toolkits to help you find the most from your game. Dial your driver in properly, but do it with a fitter. Make sure you get the setup that is exactly right for your game. Make sure the loft is right, the lie angles are right, make sure that you've got the spin profile right for your game, and if you need a bit of draw bias or fade bias, set it up correctly for your game. If you do that, it doesn't matter what driver you go for from the modern day categories, you should find something that really stays in the bag for a very long time.